Welcome to Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast. In this show, we're not just rewatching, we're going behind the scenes, deep into the anime story, unearthing intrigue, and exploring new theories about the Attack on Titan universe. The majority of each episode is spoiler-free. Then, after a warning, we'll take a few minutes to connect the dots with storylines from future episodes. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, but don't forget, you can join us for the live broadcast Sunday nights on Facebook and watch every episode on YouTube. Links will be in the show notes. With that, let's get into the conversation.
Oi, Arimikasa!
Welcome to Attack on Titan podcast.
Why?
Such an all-Jamaican podcast. We got Miss Cleo in the corner.
I didn't realize that.
And now you're Scottish and you're slowly morphing.
If I need to get a bit Scottish, I feel like I could go there tonight. I'm drinking some scotch.
Yeah.
Just whiskey.
Well, what he meant to say there was welcome to the podcast, the Beyond the Basement podcast, episode 12, The Wound.
The Wound.
Actually, isn't it just called Wound?
Wound. It's
Yeah,
not,
it's just
yeah.
called
Wound,
There's no
Battlefield
the.
Trost part like 4.
Drop the
like that.
the.
Yo, what is the wound referencing though? It's just the stab
Wound.
from Armin.
I'm pretty sure it's Armin stabbing in the back of the neck.
Spoilers.
It's not a spoiler if
It's
you
not
watch
spoiler,
the
yeah,
episode.
you
Not
just watch the
really.
episode. You don't watch this episode. I don't know why you're listening to this podcast.
Everybody who listens to this podcast
No, you
immediately
should-
watches
you
the episode and then he stops and everything they're doing
And
pulls
immediately,
out
yep.
and then listens to this podcast. I got to catch up.
Correct.
If they were uploaded to YouTube.
Okay, they will be. Darn it.
Okay.
We're
all right.
working on
All
it.
right.
Encountering technical
So any
difficulties.
shade that's been
Yeah, there's somewhere. I feel like it's impacting me like
Okay.
right in the face, actually. So, anyway, there we were. There
Oh,
we
no,
were
I erased my
watching
notes
Attack
again.
on Titan, and I realized
Dang it.
that it was time to recap the episode. Okay, so this one's pretty pretty intense. I guess they're all pretty intense, but this one is. Well, it opens up where we left off with Eren throwing a punch at Mikasa, basically.
trying to
Eren
murder
punches
his friend.
Mikasa through the roof.
Yeah, tries to punch through the roof. She dodges a couple of times, tries to talk some sense into him, and then she jumps on his face and is like, "Come on, man!" And they're like, "Oh crap, this isn't going well." The other soldiers that are with her, and she's like, "Come on, snap
Doesn't she
to
like
it!"
stick her ODM gear into his shoulder and then like zoom herself
Yes.
to him and then
So
is
she can like,
on his face.
so he can like look right at her or something like that. Anyway, so that doesn't go well because then he punches his own face off. She dodges that too.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just gotta punch your own face out to make
He
a
also,
point.
when he punched her through the roof, he like punched his own hand off.
Yeah,
as
so he's
well.
lost both hands and now his face,
And then he punches
like
his
slumps
face
over.
off and his hand off.
And
What's the term? Bite your own nose off to smite your face.
yeah,
Spite your face. Aaron punched his own face off to prove it to a girl. Like, I'm
He
serious.
Punches
He's
his
very
face
serious.
off and his hand.
this
He's
is
such
this
a
is
teenage
a
boy, isn't
I was
he?
gonna say this is like a relationship fight.
So much
on like
teenage
a whole
angst.
new level. This is
That's right.
This is like
Takes-
teen
Oh yeah,
angst.
you think I won't?
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh!
I've heard of holes in the walls. I never heard of holes in faces, man.
Holes in faces, and holes in giant faces, nonetheless.
That's right.
So
His,
he's
like,
left with his tongue hanging out of his
yeah.
body. Mikasa and the soldiers got to defend him. The rest of the troops who are back around the walls, apparently they've lost like 20% of them. They're still trying to lure as many Titans away as they can. Pixis is like, so all right, so things go awry. One of the girls who's with Eren, and sees the whole thing unfold. She shoots the red
I
smoke.
refer to her as Blondie in my notes.
Blondie with glasses.
sends up the red flare.
Sends out the red flare, and everybody gets the message like, okay, something went wrong. Pixis basically says, no, stay the course. This is our last chance anyway. We're going to do this. We're going to fight to the last man. There's kind of an uproar amongst the troops that are the elites that have been sent out to defend Eren, and they say, hey, no, like we're bailing. And Ian, there's always a hero. There's somewhere in the midst, in the vast sea of characters in Attack on Titan, as if it were reality, there's always somebody who's a minor
Ian
hero.
proves that Pixis made the right choice in putting him in command.
Yes. Yeah, Pixis put him in command, and he told him what to do, and he's going to stick with it. And so he's like, you know what? We're going to defend Eren to the last man if we need to. All the rest of us can be replaced. This is our last stand anyway. This is our shot. We need him. We cannot just replace it. We can't abandon him easily. We can't replace him. So we're gonna defend Eren. So they make that call. They go kill a bunch of Titans. Some scouts start dying. We see some stuff with Jean. We kind of cut back to Jean and Connie, get a little bit of time with those guys, and then Armin, dude. Armin shows up on the scene, tells Mikasa, go do the stuff, and I'm gonna talk Eren. I'm gonna get him back. So he pulls an Armin. Every time I do something smart in my life now, that's why I'm like, I'm pulling an Armin right now. I got a good strategy. He like realizes, oh, I think I know where Eren is. He's in the back, the nape of the neck. he freaking jabs his sword in there and starts talking to Eren and is like, bro, get with it. Get with the program. Remember why we came here, soldier.
Do you remember? You singing that song?
I don't think he does.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, so that's the gist of the episode. So let's jump into part 1 here. And I'm pretty sure part 1 is actually the Pixis and them talking, and it's like, oh, we've lost 20% of our troops already or whatever. And he's like, we haven't lost. They didn't get like lost somewhere. He's like, they're dying to give humanity a chance. He's like, this isn't like completely pointless. Like, don't pretend like they like just lost their way. Like,
they're an acceptable sacrifice if it means that we save humanity. And if history can look back and call me a butcher all at once, but that's because history's looking back. Humanity, the human race hasn't died out. You know.
Yeah.
And that's a.
Well, he also says like, I sent them to die. Like he actually says that. Which is why the butcher comment came later.
He immediately, I love how they start this episode. That line right there, there's more truth in that. There's more like honesty in that than in all of modern American politics or media combined.
True.
It's so...
There's no posturing. He's not trying to get a better rap. He's literally trying to do everything he has to do in the sobering reality of sacrificing his own soldiers whom he loves, human lives, just like we talked about in the last episode. Blondie's saying, hey, all my friends are going to die for this. You better not mess it up, right? And the thing that I love about this show is it's not going one way or the other. It's showing you the brutal reality of both. It's showing you that a human life is intrinsically valuable, and we cherish every single life and every single like human that's ever died in fighting these scourge of titans. You know, their death, we want to make it to where it's not in vain. Their death's not in vain. And on the other side, they say, hey, we also have to lay people down on the battlefield to stop the machine. We have to throw their bodies in the machine to stop the titans from rolling on so we can save humanity. So on the one hand, you have incredible value of life. On the other hand, you have to reconcile that with sometimes you have to, the most valuable thing you can do with your life is lay it down to get the mission accomplished and to save humanity.
It's kind of like D-Day. I mean, like, you look back, or I mean, a better example is honestly probably America dropping nuclear bombs. It's like, anybody can look back at, wartime specifically, just generally, anybody can look back at wartime and be like, oh, it was so brutal and they made all these mistakes and this was dumb and that was dumb. You weren't there.
Yeah.
You weren't there. You weren't a soldier on the ground calling, shots making decisions in real time with bullets whizzing by your head. And B, you also weren't a general with all the pressure in the world on you with limited information. It's like we look back in history, we do this to almost everything. This is exactly how it actually works in real life.
Hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight is 2020. The reason that's a phrase is because it's so easy to armchair quarterback. Like anybody can look back can go watch a football game and you get the perfect aerial view and the commentators and like all the history and you know what happens next. So with all that information, you can watch that game or you can look back at that war, or I'm sure it's going to happen with this whole virus thing. However this like pans out.
It's already happening.
Yeah, it's already. People are like, oh,
you should have recognized this different. Like nobody took it seriously in the beginning.
Yeah.
Everyone thought it was going to be like SARS. It's only going to affect a small amount of people in a certain area far away from us.
You didn't have the information and you weren't in the
trenches.
You weren't in the trenches. Neither were you on the throne under pressure making decisions for the sake of like millions of people. You weren't in either of those positions, so like you just can't judge. And like I said, history, D-Day is a good example. Like the same exact thing we sent in a bunch of America, UK, France, Australia, Canada. We sent a bunch of people in to. Well, I don't know if because the French Resistance was inside France. Anyway, regardless, they sent in a bunch of people to die, just like Pixis does here. He's like, no, I am sending them in to die. Like, I know that.
They didn't just get lost. I love that. It's like, nope, they were intentionally spent as a resource, a precious resource, in order to buy time for us to possibly retake this wall and to get a victory for humanity and save humanity. Because again, this is kind of a last stop. This is kind of the buck stops here. If we don't stop the Titans from taking out this next wall, humanity is going to die because we don't have enough resources regardless. Even if everybody gets out safe, hey, we made it.
Yep, we're going to starve on the inside.
We're going to starve. And so we're going to have to just cull half of humanity again. And those are losses that you may never recover from.
Right.
And so it's like Pixis has got this look in his eye, right? Especially when the red smoke goes up. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but if that red smoke goes up, Pixis gets this look in his eye. He's like, look, everyone's like, oh, we should retreat. Things aren't going well. And he's like, no, denied. We're not going to retreat.
Straight up.
Why?
I've already made my choice.
We have to win this. We have to win. So we don't have the luxury of calling a retreat and fighting another day. This is our all or nothing. This is
your
everything
last
we have.
stand.
Yeah.
So we get our first. That's our first cut. Is the whole discussion there with Pixis and the guys, and they're like, yeah, no, we're sticking with the plan basically. Or no, we lost 20% of the dudes. Then it cuts immediately to Eren taking swings on Mikasa, just throwing haymakers into the friggin' buildings, and she's dodging and is like,
and his own face, punching his own hands off. How hard would you have to punch yourself in the face to obliterate both your face and your fist?
It's not possible to generate that kind of force in a human body. In a
True.
Titan
In a
body,
Titan
where
body,
you have some
perhaps.
kind of skeleton
but
made
still,
of mist.
the amount
and
of force with
smog and
which
something.
you, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but we see this happen with Titans where their stuff gets blown off. So obviously they don't have the same exact type of skeleton that we do.
well, Eren has an unusual kind of strength anyway, plus the power to like regenerate. Apparently,
Yeah, I think most of the Titans have that regenerative power.
yes.
Eren obviously has a crazy, zealous strength where he's doing insane stuff. The armored Titan has armor.
Has armor.
We don't know the extent of it yet, but we know that he's got this armor. So maybe he's more strong. He's got an exoskeleton type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the rest of the Titans, they don't seem to have the strongest bones. I don't know if they're exactly like us because it's
Well, even they
It
sound
almost
very.
seems like
punch
they're
your own
just
hand off.
they're just big, soft blobs of stupid flesh that want to eat people.
Yeah.
Almost. You might say
They're like giant naked zombies with
Some may say
giant naked
no
zombies.
gender.
Is that what we said last
giant
week?
naked baby zombies.
That would be the best. I was like, that would make a great like alternate title for the show.
Giant genderless naked zombies.
No, they got to be giant Barbie doll
Yeah,
naked zombies.
They all have different expressions on their faces, and
They're all mostly freaky.
they're all freaky regardless. There's some of them that are like, I don't know, they look like they're in
For
the
those who
middle
are
of
listening.
farting,
Yeah.
and then there's some with like angry eyebrows and giant smiles, and anyway, they're creepy. That's the point. They're freaking creepy, okay?
So Eren and Mikasa get in this little bout, and Mikasa has to dodge a few blows. Eren literally blows off both of his hands, and she she realizes he doesn't have control. So we're kind of learning some information here, which is that, well, we kind of already had a hunch, right? It seems sort of clear that Eren, while in this form, it's not like he's all together with it.
Yeah.
He's there, but he's not totally there. He's kind of acting on instinct. I think would be a good. He's just like all emotion.
Primal.
Yeah, very primal. And so right before this, we mentioned this last time, but Mikasa and Eren were in an argument. It was over Eren saying like, I don't need you to, follow me around. I'm not a little boy.
Child.
Yeah, I'm not your child. And then she gets assigned to defend him anyway by higher ups. And it's like, okay, well, I guess this is going to happen. But they don't exchange any words after that. And that's where they last left it. And so it's kind of like, all right, did some of the emotion of that fight just bleed over, which just seems extremely dangerous? They say don't drive while you're angry. don't go into Titan form
while you're
mad.
angry.
Yeah, I think what the inference is, his focus may have changed while he was running along the wall from I have to do the boulder to I freaking hate you, Mikasa. And then all of a sudden, when all your inhibitions, it's kind of like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing. You have no inhibitions to stop you from hey, maybe hitting a woman is a bad idea. He's just
trying to punch your friend through the roof is probably
friend.
not your best
sister
use of your resources at this time.
So they freak out, pop the red smoke. Oh no, this is bad.
She tries to calm him down. That's where he punches himself in the face. She actually jumps. So she jumps to him. She did what you said earlier. The
harpoons.
What do you call them? Spider-Man pants?
Yeah, she Spider-Man pants to his shoulder and pulled herself to his face. And now she's got her boot on his nose and she's perched. Does she have a hold of his hair, I think?
That's something like
and
that.
And she's looking at his green, weird eyes and she's like, snap out of it!
She says, you're human. She actually tells him,
you're a human.
Remember.
Because he's acting like a dumb Titan.
Uh-huh.
Which is freaky because it's okay, wait a second. Can people become Titans and do they stay there if they just stay in that primal state? We don't really know what's going on with the whole Titan thing yet.
She's trying to get through to him.
She's trying to be hey, remember when you were killing the Titans? Let's have that Eren back and not the one that tries to kill me.
But I think, as usual, when Mikasa's trying to get through to Eren, even when he's a human, all she manages to do is piss him off more.
Oh, yeah.
So then he punches his own face.
Yeah, nothing's worse than being told you're wrong all the time. Oh, jeez.
So that's when the red smoke goes up. Blondie with glasses is like, oh, okay, well, this was a failure, and everyone kind of the elite soldiers who are there to protect Eren are like, yeah, you're right, this blows.
All our friends are gonna die for no reason. Cool. We
We're all
shouldn't
gonna
have
die
trusted
now. Let's
this
run away. Meanwhile,
untrusted boy. Yeah.
And so then we get one of the first cuts back to kind of the troops along the wall, the decoys that are where they've gathered in a large group in order to attract the Titans, so that they can kind of more easily get to the boulder and so on. And we get several cuts. None of them are like super long. There's just not a ton of meat to chew on there, but we get this picture of mostly of Connie. We see a little bit of Annie, Jean.
there's some randos
Marco,
that like see
some
the smoke
randos.
and they like start crying.
Yeah, and they do the thing that they've been doing this whole time, which is like
People
it's all
start
pointless.
puking and like losing their minds.
So I'm trying to think who somebody says it.
They
somebody
show.
says
They
to
think
Marco.
they show a shot of like the hundreds of naked giant zombies trying to like
Yeah.
whoa, against the wall.
There's a lot of them packed
And
in
there's
like sardines.
a lot.
Yeah.
And so, oh yeah, wait, right before they make that cut, I forgot. This is interesting. The lady who sends out the red smoke is like, "Yep, we've just got to leave him." That's actually the first thing she says is like, "We have to leave him. We're gonna have to give up on Eren. This didn't work." Like, it is such a cop out to me. It's just like,
yeah, she was
first sign of
expecting
trouble.
failure, and
Yeah.
so as soon as she saw her first hint of it, she was like, "Well, that's it. I was right. Let's
yeah.
go."
And
And based
Mikasa
off
looks at her
of-
like,
Based off of what she said the last episode, she was like already way set up
I know.
for like.
She said
yeah,
all kinds of really.
I don't trust you, and you're probably gonna get my friends killed, so you better not screw this up. Oh,
Yeah.
you screwed it up. Red
Also,
smoke!
I'm pretty sure you're a piece of crap, but hey,
Yeah,
just
she's like-
remember.
She's like the stepsister like that you married into the family who like just thinks that you're worthless and just like doesn't trust you and like waits for you to screw up and like
and the first time
See, I
you,
told
like,
you you were a
spill
piece of
milk,
crap.
she's like,
Yeah.
"See,
yeah,
look,
you
this
shouldn't
guy."
have married him. I told you shouldn't have married him. You know, she's like the dad in Sonic. Have you guys seen the
I
Sonic
haven't
movie?
seen it yet.
I haven't
Anyway.
either.
Spoilers. Spoiler alert. So all right, so then it cuts over to the troops. Really, there's not a whole lot to say about them except for the fact that they're like, yeah, we've lost. It's time to give up. And even Marco's kind of like, no, I don't. Is it time to give up? Like he's not totally sure.
That's when
Yeah.
Armin takes off.
And
when
then
the red
Pixis that's when he starts to give his lines about,
Yeah.
okay, listen, it's time to. He's like, no, it's not time to give up. We're not like they see the red smoke. They start talking about it. And he's like, no, we're not giving up here. We're gonna fight. He's like, what we have here is an opportunity not to.
We don't
Not
have,
to concede defeat or give
We
the
aren't in a
notice of
position,
defeat. Yeah, we aren't
yeah.
in a position to concede or deliver notice
Or-
of defeat.
yeah.
He's like, well, we are in a position to continue to fight to the last breath.
yeah.
Right.
He's like saying what we were talking about earlier, which is he's very aware of the actual situation. He can't be like, because as it stands, like the plan was, okay, Eren, we have to retake this wall, otherwise humanity retreats behind the next wall. People die in the process, and we starve after that. So we have to make a stand here, right? So Pixis is the one in that last episode, who had the wherewithal, the kind of bird's eye view to say that and make kind of what seems like a wild decision based on that. So now they go into that decision. It seems like it's not going to work out first thing, and everybody's like, "It's not working out. Let's bail." This is so again just like real humans, and so just like real life that I mean it's a little eerie actually. It's that people have this tendency to just want to give up, and that's what leadership is. Like 94% of the time is convincing people not to quit. That's like one of your big jobs. So Pixis is actually doing that. He's like, no, don't quit. Also remember, you can run, but you can't
We're all
hide.
gonna die
Like,
anyway.
it's not gonna work out. I literally just told you that, guys, that like 2 hours ago. Like, stay with it.
It's that same theme again that from the Mikasa and Eren episode where he says, if you fight, you might live, but if you don't fight, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You miss 100% of the shots
It's a
you
good
don't
theme.
take.
It's a good thing. And there's a season of The Ultimate Fighter
Oh, yeah.
in which they have different coaches, different UFC coaches come on, and their job is to coach some, if you've never seen the show before, their job is to, for that season of the reality show, coach a bunch of amateurish fighters into winning this competition, being the best fighter they can, going on and winning their fights. And if their fighter wins, they get some kind of bonus. And that fighter then gets a contract to be in the UFC and to fight in the UFC. So the coaches are already fighters. Like their job is a fighter. And it's very obvious if you watch that show, not every fighter is a good coach. most
Turns out leadership
Yeah.
and ability to throw punches are two different things.
way different. Yeah. Not every fighter's a coach, not every coach is a fighter, but there are some fighters who do have some genuine knowledge that they can show you how to throw a punch, right?
Mhm.
But they can't always coach you how to win. They can't always coach your mental game. And there's a specific season where the undefeated and the undisputed Chael Sonnen is a coach, very controversial figure in the UFC. He's a boss. And he definitely doesn't have the best stand-up game, definitely doesn't have all the best skills. He's got a really great wrestling game. But he's got this crazy mentality. And he's got this like unearned confidence that just like carries him through a whole lot. And in one specific episode, he goes and he shares with his bunch of guys, and he tells them, there's all this stuff out there about, hey guys, we got to do this. Failure's not an option. He's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Failure is absolutely an option. Failure is always an option. It's always an easy out. Anytime you want, you can just give up.
Yeah, you can just be like, I'm out. I'm done. Just
Yep.
sub
Pull
me
the
right now.
ripcord.
Failure is always in almost every situation in our whole lives. Failure is always an option. You're at your job, you don't like doing something, you can quit.
Yeah,
You can give up. You won't have that job anymore, but you can quit.
That's what always, I didn't mean to make a pun here, but it's like, that's what always strikes me about when people strike. But like you hear there's been going stuff again, virus world's like going crazy right now. But like, there are people who are like, yeah, like this job sucks. We're going on strike. I'm like, you could also quit. Like
Just
if you
go
don't
find
want to,
another
like
job
you
or-
do
yeah.
have the option to just be like, I'm not doing this anymore. You don't have to just get mad at your bosses and then
Yeah.
walk out. I mean, the difference between striking and quitting is you actually making money somewhere else. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, but his point was that everyone will tell you that failure is not an option. He's like, that's the biggest lie in the world, because deep down we always know that failure is always an option. It's the most readily accessible option we always have in anything we do that's hard. He's like, the hard part is staying with it, finding a reason to stay with it and to say, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And in that, he instills like a little bit of leadership. And his guy is like, hey, find a reason to keep going.
Mhm.
Failure is an option, but we have to say no. We have to be the masters of that failure. And so it's the same thing in here. It's like, if we don't quit, man, if we just keep plugging away, maybe we'll get some additional information about the Titans that'll help us to win. Maybe we'll be able to get some morale in our back to our village, so we can have, hey guys, we actually survived a battle and nobody, we didn't take crazy losses. Or maybe if we can just take back a little bit of our land back, we could have some sort of home where our children can be raised. Because at this point, if we give up, we're seceding for all of humanity. That's why he said we're not in a position to like just give up, because everyone's counting on us. The position we're in is we're going to fight to the last breath. And if you're ever in like a street scrap, if you're in a sanctioned fight, whatever, you could tap out. Okay, cool. And there's a famous quote that says, hey, if we're fighting, for money, I stop hitting you when the ref tells me to, but if we're fighting for honor, I'll stop hitting you when I feel like it. And so
if we're fighting for life, I'll stop hitting you when you stop breathing.
Right. And so like you could tap out in a street in a MMA fight, but you can't tap out in a street fight because the guy may not say, "Oh, okay, I'll stop hitting you." No, it's if you're fighting for your last breath, you do everything you can to win. Whether you're fighting dirty, whether you're using weapons, whatever you can do, you have to survive. And so at this point, everyone's kind of got the same like, "Oh, we can give up. We'll let the fight another day." And he's like, Pix is like, "There is no other day. Today's the day. We're either all gonna die right here, or we're gonna win."
There is no other day.
Aren't you tired of losing?
Yeah.
Aren't you tired? Let's have a victory.
Let's get a victory. So we cut from.
Sorry. He says it's humanity's debt.
Oh yeah, so what we
It's
owe
what
to
we
the fallen.
owe to the fallen.
To the fallen,
Dang,
yeah.
dude.
I forgot to put that.
Ian's the one that says, "Wait." The other thing.
So that's when Ian jumps in and says. So we cut back to the little situation with Ian and with Eren on the ground. Apparently disabled himself. It's kind of
He slumps down against the boulder he's supposed to pick up with his steaming stumps and his tongue hanging down to his navel.
It's disgusting. It's kind of like if you ever play like a first-person shooter game or something, and you jump off a building, and it's like the battle royale games where instead of just dying, you go down. Like you can still crawl around, but you're kind of useless. Yeah, it's like he just downed himself by jumping off of something and not pulling his shoot in time. Like, okay, man, you should feel dumb. But anyway, he's basically unconscious. So we jump back to that situation, and that's when
Rico's like, "We should just leave him."
Rico, that's her name.
Yeah.
Not Blondie, Rico.
Yeah.
Blondie, Rico. These are
anyways,
interchangeable.
Yeah, it's kind of a grayish color.
Is she like a grandma, or she's dye her hair?
I don't know.
Is it
She's a
luxury of
platinum
dyeing your
blonde
hair? Oh.
in the apocalypse.
Well then.
She's
There
of
you
a
go.
different race. I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
So she's there, and they're like, "Yep, let's give up." The dude with the little goatee is like, "Yeah, we're out. Like, we can't do this."
Mikasa's ready to chop everybody's heads off.
Yeah.
Let's say, let's abandon him.
Yeah, she's literally got her swords out, and he like stops her.
She's got the crazy eyes.
Luckily, Ian.
It's true love. So
The
Ian
voice of
steps in
reason.
and is like, "No, we're gonna defend him anyway." And they're like, Rico pipes in again. It's like, "You're telling us to just like." He's like, "That's an order," and she's like, "He has caused a bunch of people countless lives to be lost already. And you want us to stay and defend them." It's like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not going to do it. None of us are going to do this. Like, that's a bad call.
Meanwhile, there's Titans approaching them while they're all having this argument.
Right.
Titans.
3 more, and then eventually, I'm trying to think what.
There's like a 12-meter one, and then a few shorter ones.
2 coming from one side, another one coming from the rear, and so they're kind of like they're in a pinch right now. They've got Titans actually on them, and so he's making the call. He's like, no, we're gonna do this, and she drops that line like, he's caused all these soldiers to die already. Like, you want us to sacrifice more lives for him? And he says, yes, sacrifice everyone to the last man.
Yeah.
We can't give him up too easily. And the point is pretty obvious. He like looks down at Eren and is like, this looks bad right now, but to just give up this quickly is not a wise decision. Like, we are all like, we're fodder anyway. Like, we can't do any more than we are doing, but we can essentially be replaced. Like, we can train more soldiers. We can't get another one of these.
Yeah.
No one's ever seen this before.
Mhm.
And if we just let this go right now, we'd be fools.
Yep. Yeah.
And he also realizes, like Pixis, this is our last chance anyway, so we might as well make the best of it.
And what you said, which is really cool, is that he kind of steps into this moment. It's like, we're going to defend him to the last man. He's proving Pixis. What did you say? He's proving Pixis right.
Made the right decision. Because when he appointed him leader, there was a little bit of like,
he was scared.
Are you sure
he
you
was
want
unsure.
me? Yeah, and he's proving that he was the right choice for that
good.
position and not Rico.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she would have just
Because
She'd be like, all right,
she
we're
would have
out.
been like,
If
okay,
you think
go.
back,
We're not going. Yeah.
He looked at her when he said that, like, "Oh, not her, me. Okay."
Right.
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'm okay with that."
Yeah. He's like, yeah, and you got some gumption. I believe in you, man. You got what it takes. But I think this is also going back to the theme of the whole like good leadership, bad leadership thing. Because Rico was also second in command to the
to that other dude. The what's his face? Winkle.
Yeah, Mr. Whiny Face.
Yeah, Mr. Whiny Face.
I don't remember his
Fraidy
name,
pants.
But
Wonton.
it's
man.
almost like it's her job to like sit on someone's shoulder and like whisper bad advice into his ear. Not that she had
she's
the worst
the devil
advice.
in the
She was
cartoons.
definitely a coward, and she was trying to talk some sense into him. But now she's got Ian there, and Ian's like, "Look, hey, we're not just gonna run away, right? It's the whole good leadership, bad leadership thing that we've seen throughout the whole series. There's some leaders who are like, no, we're gonna stand up for what's right. We're gonna do what's right, regardless of what it costs. And there's some leaders that are like, I'm going to do whatever benefits me. I'm going to run. I'm going to hide. I'm going to abandon my post. I'm going to take these goods over people or whatever it is. It's the whole like, some leaders are leaders in title and some leaders are leaders because of what's inside of them.
Yeah.
And Ian definitely starts to step up and he's like, hey, don't forget who's in command here, which it sucks to ever have to say that.
Oh, pulling rank is should always be a last resort. But here's the thing: is there are times,
feel good.
as there has been many times in history, when that is what you do. There's that savage letter that Abraham Lincoln sends to what's the general's name? I can't say his dang name. This is kind of early on in the Civil War, and he has this general who has the.
Is he a Confederate or is he?
No, he's one of Union general.
Okay.
He's what Abraham Lincoln's like. He's Abraham Lincoln's like right hand man. He has the biggest army. Like he has not just the biggest army, a significantly bigger army than what the Confederate South had at the time, and he disengages like over and over, and basically just has this army like it's all built up. They keep sending resources, and he like doesn't engage in any fights. Like he just keeps pulling. Like he pulls every punch. Abraham Lincoln says you should be. Abraham Lincoln is like, I'm not the general. He's in charge of the army. I'm gonna let. He keeps defending this guy to other people. They're like, why isn't he being aggressive? Why isn't he attacking here? Why isn't he like doing his job basically? And Abraham Lincoln behind the scenes keeps defending him. He's like, no, like I'm not in charge of the army and neither are you. Like he's the general. We're going to let him do his job. And so he like keeps like not doing it. And anytime there's a fight, he like signals for a retreat and just like won't take casualties. Like he's just not a good general. Like he's genuinely like running and hiding and it's kind of hard to see why, but it's hard to, even from historical documents, it's sort of hard to tell what the guy's mindset actually was, whether it was passivity or fear or like what even was going on.
Something that nobody else saw.
Right. And so Abraham Lincoln sends him this like savage letter where he's like, listen, if you don't if you don't plan on using the army, might I borrow it from you for a while in order to do something, in order to fight this fight? And like, he's basically pulling rank on him. He's like, listen, I am the president. If you're not going to use the army, like, can we borrow it so we can actually win this war, so we can like end slavery? Anyway, I just thought I was thinking of that. But
yeah, going back to that theme, William Wallace famously said,
yeah,
men don't fuddle titles. They full of courage.
They full of courage.
Right. So it's like, you can be a leader, and we see many leaders in the show, but they're actually not leaders, right? It's what's inside of you. It's how you do. It's what you say. It's what you do. It's Eren, right? He's this indomitable will that inspires others to stand up and fight. It's Pixis having this confidence. No, we're going to do this. And in this situation, it's Ian, right? Having the courage to say, no, we're going to defend Eren to the last man. Everyone else is expendable. This is the first development in offensive weapons we've ever had against the Titans, and maybe it's not going the same way. We got some kinks to work out, but we're gonna stand there. We're gonna defend him,
even if it's a big kink. We're doing it.
Yeah, and he says, yeah, we're going down to the last man. We're gonna protect this guy, and they eventually are like, all right, we'll do that. I don't freaking like it.
Rico's like, you're crazy, and then she walks off, and he goes, you're refusing, and she goes, I'm gonna do what you say. But you're crazy.
Yeah.
And I know you're right.
This is madness. She's like, I know you're right, but this is madness.
Just a little bit on in this episode, we find out part of his decision-making process was that Eren's important. It's that we can't really retreat. But it was also that if Rico and those other people retreated, Mikasa was going to fight them. She was probably going to try to kill them then and there.
He kept stopping her from chopping Rico's face off.
Yeah,
so he actually makes it for sure the right call then, because he resolves the whole situation, all the elements.
There's a couple times where there's some
he keeps making eye contact with Mikasa, like, down, girl, down.
I'll handle this. You just don't go all Mikasa on us right now. And it's like that. This comes up a couple times where there's fighting within the ranks, and it's the same thing that Pixis said. Like, we can't. What does he say about like? Or he talks to Eren about the Titans, brought us all together.
We may not be able to unify enough to win this fight.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and he's basically like, look, if there's infighting, like we won't be able to win, right? And there's infighting right now, and so we have to put that infighting behind us. We have to get everything together, and we have to fight against these Titans together in a unified front. And so they finally agreed to do that.
So we get another cutaway at this point. Again, back to kind of the troops on the wall. They're sort of like keep reminding us that like other people are in the fight right now, and they're trying to like keep the Titans occupied to buy some time. We cut to it's Marco, Connie, and Jean, and they're basically all of them are talking about giving up. Jean is one of the only ones. He's like, no. And he actually, it's interesting because he kind of reinforces what we just saw. The really only important line there is Jean actually says to the guys, he's like, no, Pixis made the right call. We are sticking with this plan. We're going to figure it out. It's Eren we're talking about here. Like, you really think this is just going to like go over? And Connie's like, I hate to be that guy. Like, this like doesn't look good. And then John has to kind of convince him like, no.
Yeah,
Marco
somebody says like,
I think Marco
even
says,
Armin ran off, and then John's like, no, come on.
Doesn't Marco say it's Eren we're talking about? It'll be all right. I have a feeling about it. It'll be okay. And you're like, Marco, man.
I don't know, optimist. But it's still a good line.
It was Marco.
Marco, you can be in my squad any day, bro. Okay.
And so then it cuts immediately back to, I think, to Ian. I'm pretty sure he's the one who just says this line where he says, I think it
shows like Armin running, and then it cuts to Ian.
Yeah, Armin's running around, then cuts back to Ian, and he says, look at us. We're always scraping by.
Always on the run.
Always on the run. Don't you want to make a stand? And he says, this is how it's done. And he's talking to Rico and the gang. He's talking to the other elite soldiers on the front there that are with him. And he's like, this is how it's done. You want to make a stand or not? And he's like suddenly acquired the Pixis level of like, like plus 20 on like leadership skill, but then also like
unlock.
Yeah,
perspective.
Like unlocks the perspective of this is it anyway. Like, this is how it's done. I'm sick of always being on the losing side. I'm sick of always... McClellan, General McClellan, that was his name.
There you go.
General McClellan is this guy in Civil War. I feel like that was his attitude. It's like conserve. It's like never go on offense, just always be on defense. And it's no way to win a war, and it's no way to live a life. Nope. And especially a life where you're oppressed and imprisoned anyway. Fight. That's okay. Fight.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he pretty much resolves it. With that, I think that's where she drops that line.
That's like, where she says, "You're crazy," and then walks off.
This is madness.
madness.
But they agree. All the people.
But I know
you're
right. And then
And she's like, I'll take the 12-meter one.
You hear the and she goes off.
And
Spider
then
pants.
Spider Pants happen.
Spider-Man pants.
Then the other dude with the goatee who's all freaked out is like, okay, well, then our team's on these other 2 Titans. And so they just take off. They like obey the order, which good on him. And that's when he turns to Mikasa. And this has got to be, he says, go ahead. He's like,
now
what I need
you're
you to,
free.
now you're free to like do what you need to do. Like use your inboard skill. Like go fight this fight. I think does he say this to Mikasa or he says to them? I have this written down. He says, just this once, I want to fight an actual fight, or I want to fight a fight instead of just running.
I think he says that right before Rico's
Okay,
like,
I think that's before. Anyway, he tells Mikasa, use your inborn skill, and she go and save the man you love. And she turns,
and then he turns and just
doesn't give her a chance to respond. And she's like, it's not like that.
It's not like that. Flushes red.
I swear.
And then looks down because it is like that.
This is an interesting point, though.
Japanese people,
because
admit your feelings.
If
Sorry,
pulling an
drives me
Armin
crazy.
is being afraid, but then having some crazy strategy that saves everybody in the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pulling an Eren would be running headlong into a fight without thinking about consequences. Pulling a Mikasa would either be being insanely bad at everything you do and just wrecking everybody, or being really emotional, clinging to one person all the time.
She's like codependent,
wanting
and, like,
to chop everyone's face
everyone
off who says anything bad about the one she loves, and then it denying that she loves him.
Yeah, no fury like a woman scorned, right?
Yeah.
Like, but she's like all about this dude. Yeah. So this is an interesting remark. He says, use your inborn skill, and we're like, yeah, use that like Ackerman, like I do crazy stuff. But then he says, go save the man you love, and it's like, wait a second. You remember when Mikasa found out that Eren died? She was like actually a terrible soldier.
Yeah.
So like her like ability comes from she like loves Eren and she's gonna protect Eren, and so like it's almost like her inborn skill is like defending those she loves.
Dang.
Interesting.
Dang. Well, she's got some serious loyalty points there.
Yeah, she says she's freaking out as he runs away and she's all blushing, right? And then she says, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? And she said a really important line that I like. She says, I need to stop thinking and start doing.
Oh, so true.
This is great advice.
I need to stop overthinking and start doing. Yeah.
This is great advice for so many people. There's people like Eren who do need to stop and think. They take a chill pill and analyze the situation,
That's
get a
the
sit
minority,
rep,
but
and go.
it does happen.
Take a moment.
And then there's people
just not an Eon
like Mikasa and probably like me and like Kansas who we need to not overthink things. We need to just make a decision, because indecision is a decision, right? We need to stop thinking and start doing. And that's, I think, good advice right now, too, in our current pandemic situation. So many people overthinking, well, what about this? And what if we did this? It's like, okay, who cares about what we could have done? What can we do right now? All we have to decide is what we can do with the time that we're given.
Which is basically a stolen, if I have this right, I think it's a stolen quote from Truman. It's either Truman or FDR, one of that's around that World War II time, where he says, do what you can with what you have where you are.
Yeah.
And it sounds so basic, like logically thinking like that's so basic, but it's logically true. It is, but it is emotionally difficult.
Yeah.
Do what you can with what you have where you are is okay. So you have, our tendency is to think about what we don't have and where we wish we were and what we wish we could do or what we wish had happened. That's like the tendency, like that's humanity. But the advice is no. Do what you can. Like there is something you can do. Okay, yeah, you're trapped in home right now, but like, can you do something? Can you make a podcast? Like, do what you can with what you do have, because you have something.
Can you reach out to your neighbors? Can you see if they need anything? Can you sterilize a drink and give it to the FedEx guy who's delivering 1,000 packages a day?
Yeah.
Do you have some extra money you could give to a charity right now that could really use it? Can you buy from local businesses at least instead of buying from McDonald's or something?
Right.
Like those are the things that I feel like that's always good advice. It's like, what can we do right now? Let's just stop thinking about it like crazy and just start doing something positive. Start pushing something in the right direction.
Taking some action. So in this case, the action is defend, buy some time at least. Because right now, Eren's down. Go kill some Titans because they're going to come eat this guy. It's all for naught unless we go and do something. So Mikasa's like, okay, all right, well, it's time to get in gear.
And
here.
Consequently, there may be no one better at slaughtering Titans.
Because she starts wrecking.
Or there may not be.
There may be, but at least
she starts orange slicing the crap out of a bunch of Titans.
She's got
right
the orange
after
crush
that.
just happening.
Freaking fruit ninja right up ons.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see here. So then we then we cut to this. Well, she one of her thought processes actually is kind of important. She realizes Eren's not like getting up, and he's not doing that kind of like we've seen him before, where his hand is the stuff that's like blown off, just sort of like regenerates.
Oh, yeah,
in it. She notices that's not happening, and he's just sort of like down for the count. So then it cuts to what looks like a flashback. And Eren is like in his house and he's wrapped in like a, what do you call it?
He's like wrapped up in a blanket like a human burrito.
But what's the suit called that they put crazy
like
people
a straight
in?
jacket.
Straight jacket. I couldn't think of it. So
he's got a snuggie on.
He's got a
but it's
straight
not,
snuggie.
it's not really like, I mean, like I said, he's wrapped. It's almost like he's swaddled.
Yeah.
Like
but
a
he
baby.
can't move. He kind of makes it appear like
so his arms are like, in the blanket. Yeah. And he can't really move his arms.
And we realize that it's mimicking the fact that he's
inside the Titan,
engorged in flesh right now in a Titan with like all this stuff pressed on him, which is a terrible claustrophobic feeling.
Yeah.
He's got this, sack on that's like, sometimes when you dream, your brain comes up with reasons for
explanation for why
something seems normal.
Happening. And this is exactly what's going on.
So he's actually in this state. So he's not having a flashback. He's in this kind of like weird sort of dream state.
He's in like
he's
a
seeing
trance
his mom
or something.
He's seeing Mikasa's when she was younger. He's seeing his dad. Like
everything's happy.
Yeah, he's also normal. Like a little kid in his vision that he's having, or this trance state.
Everything's back to the way things were before hell came.
And so then we cut away quickly from that to kind of back to the troops again. They kind of keep reminding us in this episode, like, hey, there's this whole fight going on. There's this whole like fight for survival. Like keep this distraction going on. Like Pix is saying, execute the plan. Keep these Titans distracted. We have to do that. So we cut to, it's that we see Annie. Who the frick is else? That's just a bunch of soldiers there. Basically, it's the line where the guy goes, "Die and you'll piss me off." Like,
yeah, he's giving commands to his recruits. He's like, "Do this, do this, do this," and he's like, "Hey, can I just do whatever the heck I want?" He's like, "Sure."
Whatever makes it easier for you.
You always do that because you're Annie.
She
anyway.
asks if she can act with her own discretion.
Yeah. Dangerous. Anyway, and then he's like, "Yeah, do this and just don't die because that'll piss me off if you freaking die." Like,
so
strong.
It cuts back away to Mikasa doing Mikasa things. This episode actually has a bunch of action and a lot of like
it's a good mix. I feel like.
Yeah. There's like some moving the story forward and some action. And then she actually makes a note that I missed my first time through. She says, "I wonder why so many are coming."
Well, somebody comments that more are coming, and then
64 additional Titans. Right?
She's like, "Why are more coming?"
Yeah,
and it can't be because of us. There's not enough of us to attract them.
Yeah, and she sort of makes this presumption, like, I think they're coming for Eren? Question mark. But
yeah, it's like the Fab Four just appear out of nowhere, and they're ready to play a concert. But hey, if you look in this episode 12, this is, I don't know how many minutes in. If you look and the 4 Titans appear. The one in from the left
looks like
is
Daniel.
Kansas. There's a Kansas Titan who appears, and you're like, I knew it. Confirmed all along.
Listen, we're gonna show you what
and
he
then
looks like as a Titan
you
one
also
day.
said that the other 2 looked like you and Eric in high school.
In high school, the floppy hair.
Yeah,
your hair's getting floppy right now. You can't go see a barber these days. So
we will post on our Patreon a picture of us from high school.
Yeah, and
we will
young
understand.
Titans. So then, so she goes in and kind of cuts up some Titans, wonders why more of them are coming, and then that's when Armin shows up, and he's like,
"What's going on?
What's happened? Like, why did the plan go belly up here?" And she tells him, he lost control.
Why is he
and
like
he's
this?
Not responding anymore. Like, basically, he effed himself up. Like, no one did this to him. He did this to himself.
Yeah.
Like, he's like,
she said it nicer. She was like, he lost control and now he's like this.
Yeah, she gave him a lot of credit for
so
punching
much
himself
grace.
out.
So much more
Like he
grace.
had one drink. I don't know how. What how'd you?
So that's when Armin pulls an Armin and just immediately goes into critical thinking mode. That is exactly the word to describe like Armin when he does it sort of verbally so we can track with him. You sort of get into his thoughts. Critical thinking, that's what happening. He just looks at the situation and goes, okay, there's this, and this. Armin is the definition in this moment of do what you can with what you have, where you are. He goes, okay, I've got a sword. I see Eren, and what I know right now.
Well, first he goes from the roof and he like shoots into Eren's shoulders and zooms himself to his neck.
Yeah.
And Mikasa's like, get off of him, boy, you're going to die. He's out of control. And Armin basically is like, shut up and trust me.
I'm Armin.
I'm going to do my thing. I'm massively paraphrasing here, but
he literally says there's other people to be more worried about than me.
He's like, you go go slice some Titans' necks apart, and I'm going to get through to Eren. And for once in her life, Mikasa does not argue with someone when it comes to Eren. And she goes away and does what he says.
and she does what she's doing best, and Armin's doing what he's doing best, which is creating a plan, right? And this is an amazing opportunity for Armin to fill in his gap, right?
Yeah.
To fill in his gap. His gap was he was afraid, and he was always holding people back. In this situation, he's like, no, I'm not afraid. I know what I have to do.
He's gonna move everyone forward.
And I'm gonna move everyone forward. Don't worry about me. I got this.
So that's when he comes with this quick plan. He says he has this kind of flashback to watching the first time we saw Eren come out of the Titan, and he remembers he came out of the back of the neck. And up to this point in the show, we know that this is like a weak point. We've seen this a bunch of times at this already, where during practice and now in reality, that the way to take down a Titan is to cut the little orange slice out of the nape of the neck, out of the back right there. So Armin actually puts these two pieces together and realizes, okay, that's where Eren came out of. This is sort of like an important area here when it comes to Titans. And he determines, he's like, I'm going to use my sword. I'm going to sink this thing in. I'm going to cut a hole that's 10 centimeters across and 1 meter high. That's roughly where Eren should be. I'm going to see what I can do here.
Which is crazy because we're Americans, so if they gave us those instructions, we have no idea what that
he has
means.
zero idea.
I just love that Armin looks at him and then remembers the stuff, and he surmises exactly where Eren is and how deep he will not kill Eren.
Yeah, he's like,
but get his attention.
He actually says, he's like, this. I don't know if this is gonna work 100%. I don't know, but I know this is probably gonna hurt. Like, it's not gonna feel good. And so, yeah. Oh, that's right. He drops a line. He says, when Eren emerged from the first time from this form, he emerged from the weak spot. I think this is a bigger part of the picture of how Titans operate, basically. And spoiler alert / not spoiler alert, pay attention to what Armin says, crap, because he's probably right. So
this is the show.
Armin gives away a lot of spoilers.
Yeah, secretly, he's the actual spoiler.
He is.
Armin is a steady drip of good information.
Indeed. Yes, he is.
Throughout this entire show.
So then he stabs the sword in, nails Eren right in the arm, and his Titan kind of reanimates for a second.
He like grazes it.
Yeah, just stabs him.
He's like,
so Eren and the Titan both scream at the same time, which we haven't seen that happen yet. We've just only seen Titan Eren scream, but we haven't seen Eren scream and then Titan Eren scream at the same time.
So we're getting a lot closer kind of look at maybe how the mechanics of this thing works. And if you've ever seen, is it Pacific Rim where they fight in the large robots? Yes. It's very similar to that, where it's like Eren's still existing as Eren, and it's almost as if he's wearing a giant like Titan, and in Pacific Rim they're wearing like giant robots, and the movements that they do in the film or whatever are the movements that the giant robot does. In this case, it's like it's sort of similar. It's like Eren's like the brain of the operation, but he still exists in his form. And
it's
Eren is the Titan's brainstem.
Yes, and it seems to definitely function off of impulses and instincts, his primal instinct, without him really moving to an extent, having his eyes open. But then he has this thought. He's like, where am I? I can't see. Oh, that's when he goes in the dream.
They show Eren's eye, and his pupils are like dilating and retracting and going back and forth.
So he can't see. He's in a like a post-epic state almost, where he like.
It's almost like he's drugged.
He's out.
Well, I think he's just punched his Titan self in the face anyway.
Maybe
so
he has a severe concussion and needs to get medical service.
Because he's like, why can't I see?
I think his eyes are missing in his Titan form, is what I'm saying. So he can't see because those eyes are disabled.
At least one of them for sure is missing.
Yeah. So that's when we kind of cut back. So Armin tries to talk some sense into him. He's like,
so then
I know
Armin
you're in there.
starts pounding on the back of the Titan's neck. Right?
Yeah, and he's saying like,
and then in Eren's vision, Armin is pounding on the window behind him.
Yeah. Yeah, and he says...
like,
well, he reminds him of the plan.
He says,
what's he talking about? Says, you're not making sense.
You are Eren. You're Eren Yeager. What is this steaming hunk of flesh
useless
around
flesh
you?
around you doing?
I'm like, dang, Armin's poetic actually in this time.
And then, inside Eren's delusion, Eren says, Armin, you're not making any sense. What the hell are you talking about?
It's in the dream or vision or whatever. Like Armin's like a little Armin
like,
again. He's like
so
outside
tired.
the window, like knocking. Like, oh,
yeah. And he says,
I'm so tired.
Your mom. Remember your mom? Were you gonna kill? You swore to kill the Titans
for her. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna avenge your mother's
like, my mom's
death.
right here.
Yeah, everything. I have everything I need. Why would I want? I definitely don't want to be a scout.
It's almost like Armin
what?
can hear Eren, but can he?
Yeah, it's not really clear.
They
It
don't
doesn't seem
really
like it's
tell
much of a
you.
conversation.
It's more like Armin, I feel like, is trying
Armin's
to...
heart hears Eren's reply.
He's just trying to figure out the motivation to get somebody to, like, flip that switch. And so he begins to say all the things that would hit that switch for Eren, right? Like, hey, remember that time those Titans freaking ate your mom in front of you? Didn't that piss you off? Don't you want to do something about it?
He's trying to remotivate him.
Yep. And he's like, okay,
you swore to kill every single Titan and rip off their faces.
And
he's sort of cued into the how this Titan thing works as well, I think. Because Eren sees that as an idea.
Yeah, at the very least. He's trying to find that motivation. And Eren is teetering, right? And I don't know if this is the best analogy, but it's almost like when you're having that dream where you're like, hey, the bathroom's right here. I could just use the bathroom. And then some part of your brain's like, you shouldn't do that, bro. You need to get up. Like, no, but it's right here.
But it's right in front of me. I should just go
to the bathroom. And you know
it's kind of interesting, though, because at this point, like, Eren almost doesn't seem to remember anything, and he's in this weird trance state.
Yeah, his brain is telling him whatever he needs to stay peaceful, to stay happy, and to not go back to the terrible reality of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And Armin is being the good friend, be like, bro, you need to come back right now. Remember your mom.
But then it's going to interrupt this touching moment.
So then we cut back to some reality again. They're reminding us when we cut back again to Jean and Connie and the gang and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they're
Annie
at this
and
point
Marco.
they're Annie and Marco, and at this point they're kind of running around on the ground. They're sort of trying to distract and maybe even take out some Titans that are in the corner where they've sort of get them all huddled together. And
it seems like Marco and Jean get separated from Annie and the rest of them.
Yeah, and so Connie actually Connie gets like
Connie's like about to
confronted. He basically get freaking jacked up, and Jean, instead of killing, he doesn't actually kill the Titan, but he like launches one of his little ODM gear pieces at him and like distracts him. And is like, all right, come and get me. So Connie gets away. He's like, Connie, get away, and he goes off to like to get away from this Titan himself, and his gear malfunctions.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like anytime in the show where somebody's gear malfunctions like that in the middle of a fight, like usually a bad sign.
Yeah.
Usually
doesn't Mikasa swoop in and like orange slice the Titan's neck?
So
somebody does.
So
or
Connie escapes and says, "Why isn't he using his gear? Like what the heck is going on?" And then we cut back to Jean, and he's like running on the street. Now there's a second Titan after him, and he runs inside this like store.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm not gonna die today."
He says, "I'm not gonna
that's
die
right.
today."
That was okay. Yeah.
And he goes, "Look at me, I'm dragging everyone down." And so then that's the moment we realize, okay, wait, like people are going to die.
He's like trapped in the building and he looks outside. He sees somebody's body in the street and that they have ODM gear.
Yes.
And then
he says, maybe I'm not going to die. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of in this like dire situation. So they're cutting out of Eren's dream world back to, no, this is the stuff is happening
people
right now.
People are dying right now.
Yeah.
There's a fight happening right now. That's
Stop
what is happening.
being lulled into peace, Eren. Wake up. People are dying.
So then we cut back to Eren and Armin. Armin's giving his speech, and this is where he says some really like moving stuff. And he tells them, "Remember when we were kids? Remember what we were dreaming? We desired for life outside the walls, what it would be like. We used to daydream about frozen tundra and desert sands and oceans and forests." And he drops this huge thing. It was like, "Remember the things that my parents wanted to see." We've not met Armin's parents, but that's
Obviously,
incredible.
They died.
They've kind of given hints about them, but yeah.
They've died wanting to see what was out
What's
there.
beyond the walls. They put that inside of Armin, it seems like.
They inspired Armin, who inspired Eren, and Eren's been inspiring others constantly with this one hope, life outside the walls. And so Armin's trying to stir Eren up, and he says, I always thought that you kind of outgrew that dream and kind of let it go, but I realized it was only because you let it go because you didn't want me to join the scouts. You wanted to join the scouts. You wanted to go out, but you didn't talk about it, basically. And he says, it's kind of interesting.
These next lines. There's a translation.
Yeah,
probably not quite an error, but there's certain. It's probably hard to interpret from Japanese to English. So we had to watch the subs and the dubs to sort of connect this.
It's definitely worded in a way where no English person would phrase a sentence like this. It wouldn't make sense to us. So if you're watching the subs, then you may want to go watch the dubs. If you're watching the dubs, stop. Watch the subs, are way better. But
the Japanese voice actors,
often you need a little bit of help, though.
Yeah,
the Japanese voice actors are just significantly better because it's in the native tongue. It was written in Japanese. Like
the emotion conveyed is way better. In the native
plus
language.
the actual voices, like the way that Armin is voiced, the way that Eren is. It's just more convincing. Yeah, I was gonna say just the whole thing. It seems more convincing. And it's more
heartfelt.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we don't even understand the language. At all, right? Like we're literally reading the subtitles, but
you understand the emotion.
Yes,
you understand the way that they phrase something. You understand like the meaning behind it, and even if you can get just a rough idea of what they're trying to say, all of a sudden you're in your heart of hearts, you understand what they're trying to say.
Right.
So we watched it in the subs and we watched it in the dubs just to kind of get the best translation. So we're gotta give you a paraphrase of both. But he essentially says, "Tell me honestly, even if your first step beyond the wall meant the difference between a warm hearth and hell on earth, gambling against the possibility of dying like parents, why? Why would you throw caution to the wind and venture outside?" And the whole gambling or taking a risk between leaving a warm hearth and going to hell on earth is actually where Eren's kind of at right now. He's in this like happy state. He's in this warm, has a weird sack where he's got his mom, his dad. His dad's right there. His mom's there.
Yeah,
Mikasa's there.
It's like everything's normal.
But
Everything's
while he's
great.
saying
He's a
that,
little
Eren
boy.
like drops the blanket and stands up.
While Armin is saying these words, he's like, why would you risk it all for, to go back to hell on earth, which is where they're at right now, where the Titans are killing everybody they know. There's no hope. There's no peace, right? They're trapped like rats. They're just cannon fodder. And something in those words, we found Eren's motivation, right? It moves him to get beyond the walls. He gets up, he drops the cloak off, and he begins to walk. And he says, what kind of dumb question is that? You know damn well why I need to get beyond the walls.
Such a good line. The music swells.
Because the world beyond the walls is my birthright, right?
Yeah.
Like I was born to get outside of these walls. I was born to be free. And it's like, it's that whole...
and then the illusion catches on fire and burns away.
Yeah, Eren goes Super Saiyan. He just goes... And we see the eyes like glow and
the
everything
eyes
burns
flash.
up. There's no more going back because he's going to pay whatever price he has to taste that freedom, to get outside the walls, whether it means coming back from being eaten by a Titan or coming back from punching yourself out or sacrificing whatever it is. Eren's going to get outside the walls. He's going to be a free man. And it's like, I forget what the term is, but like when you're a prisoner and you just can't go back. You'll do anything you have to. I can't go back. I have to be free. I have to taste outside the walls. And he's gonna give everything he has. And so now we've got a motivated, pissed off Eren in Titan form.
Yeah, you need to hear him say that in Japanese again. If you're listening to this in the dubbed version, you need to go at least watch that line in the subbed version, because the delivery of the world outside the walls is my birthright is significantly better.
And of course, right after that epic line, to be continued. ...
And you're like, dang right, it's gonna be continued. Eren's about to continue some whooping on some Titans.
That's right.
Let me tell you, the world outside the walls is my birthright, man.
Okay, so with that, we got to jump into spoilers.
This is your spoiler
There's
alert.
fewer in this episode than in others, but we're going to jump into spoilers. Now, here's your warning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Look us up on the Facebooks. Again, Sunday we stream live on Sunday nights. We're on West Coast time, which is like California, LA. Think about that. So I don't know what time zone y'all are in. So Sunday nights at about 9 is usually when we start.
Usually.
Or thereabouts. And then, Facebook, YouTube.com, Facebook.com/ Beyond the Basement Podcast, all that jazz. Email us, beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. Patreon, all the good stuff. Go find us there. Go hit us up on the various pages.
Please subscribe. Please
give
us
subscribe.
the stars.
If you really are liking the podcast, go leave us a review, a 5-star review, ideally. Go leave us a 5-star review. That'll help us out a ton. Anyway, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Thanks for having amazing, cool interests like Attack on Titan.
Hopefully you're doing good in quarantine and we're giving you some cool content to binge on. And remember, we're all in this together. And that's okay. We got to fight.
Yeah, we have to fight. We have to fight. All right, guys.
So
this is your warning. Put your phone away. Hit the pause button. Turn it off. Turn your car off. I don't know what you're going to do. You have 3 seconds. You have 3, 2, 1. Spoil me. Whoa. Jeez, I have to
every
break one of
time.
those.
It just gets so hot up in here when the spoilers are just juicy, bro. It's just they get me going.
The spoilers are kicking.
I only have one. And
You only have one. Hit me.
Well, first we have to lament because
Marco. Every episode the Marco's in.
Marco.
I think, yeah.
Okay, but actually the next one, I think.
I thought it was this one. I'm fuzzy on the
because
order
that
of things,
body
but-
in the
yeah.
street
Was it Marco? I don't think
that
it was.
Jean gets the ODM gear off.
That's
of.
Marco's body?
No, because he
It's
couldn't.
not Marco's
he couldn't
body?
get it off that one because Annie has to get Marco's ODM gear.
It's Annie who gets Marco's gear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Oh.
remember. I knew somebody got ODM gear off of a body.
Yeah,
It's been so long since I watched this. I can't remember.
I think that's a good point though, and you're on the right track. I think it's I think it's John gets the part he needs from that dude's ODM gear.
Something like that, yeah.
I think because Marco was still alive back with...
This whole part's fuzzy to me for
He
some
got
reason.
separated, like Annie and him separated from John and Connie right before...
That's true. And also...
Connie almost gets eaten.
Maybe
and then
it
Marco,
could be, but...
I don't know.
They were all three together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Annie... what am I trying to say?
Bertolt and Reiner.
Annie, Bertolt, and Reiner, and Marco are all in the same place, and they kind of like let him die because Marco just hurt. Like, I'm pretty sure they say some things that give themselves away.
Yeah,
I don't know if Marco puts it together.
Which is like way to be terrible.
But
spies.
this is the battle where Marco dies.
Yeah, for sure. This is where, he
at
dies
some
pretty quick
point
here.
in the next few episodes, it's going to happen, and I'm going to cry all the
freaking
tears
tragedy.
because Marco is actually really cool.
Yeah, like now that we're rewatching, it's like we've all like loved this character a lot more, and like we knew that they were dirtbags for letting him die, but now it's like, whoa, it's just this isn't a rando. Like this was like a good-hearted.
He was
like,
the heart of the team, man.
Yeah, the encourager. You killed the Barnabas. Like,
his theme song that's constantly playing is "You've Got a Friend in Me."
Yeah.
Don't remember that. Marco will say something really encouraging when everybody is sad.
When you want to give up, he'll help you go chop a Titan in the neck. Okay, anyway.
So let's see here. I'm trying to think of other more like specific spoilers. There's really not like a whole lot. I mean, they show a lot of Eren inside of
the Titan.
Inside of the Titan. And I guess the spoiler here is the fact that like Armin's putting the pieces together like, oh, we know this is how we kill like the dummy Titans. And I think this is where Eren's going to be. And it turns out that is where Eren is. And you actually kind of said it. You weren't spoiling.
I wasn't trying to be a spoiler.
But the idea here is that, like, yeah, the person, the shifter,
Eren
is essentially the
brainstem.
Where the brainstem, right? But he's in, like, the place of the spine, essentially, right? Where that spine would be.
And we know spinal fluid is very
And spinal fluid is how you turn Titans into, or how you turn...
people into Titans.
The Eldians or whatever into Titans.
Eldians, yeah.
And... it's this, anyways. The whole like, I think there's a lot more they need to still like, kind of reveal. Even though they said a lot in season 3 about like how things work, I think there's probably still a little bit more to kind of be determined. I mean, they explained a lot, but I feel like we need a little bit more information. Anyway, point is that Armin's putting that together in episode 12.
Yeah,
right.
That like there's something like really important here, and it's as the viewer, it's interesting because I'm watching this now. I know all the information. Even while I was watching this, I wasn't putting it all together, how everything worked for sure. At this point, they haven't given away the hints. I don't think they've given away big enough hints. At least they do when Connie's mom starts speaking or whatever. When the Beast Titan shows up season 2. But like,
yeah, she's like, "Welcome home."
She like says, I think she has a name or something like that. We don't know that like all humans are Titans and stuff, but basically. Armin unlocks the secret, like I said, episode 12, right away. That if there is not a person, like a shifter in there, the consciousness of the human, of whoever was there, dwells like right there. That's why you can. That's why the only way you can kill them is by doing that. It's interesting because I actually suspected once I started to put together that there would be a body in every Titan.
That's what I thought too.
But it just evaporates, like it goes away with the body, and they just never see it, basically.
I feel like Armin, Hanji, and Erwin should get locked in like a room
in a think tank
just
together.
Everything. Think tank and just spitball.
Sit down with the books that they found in the basement. And
just for like I don't know, a couple weeks, and they'd have more information than like all of the scouts brought back with all of their deaths. Forever.
Easily. Like I said, there's not like a ton of like spoiler material in this one.
Yeah. I thought the Marco thing was the only thing I thought maybe I saw,
we'll
but
find
I
out.
Can't remember 100%.
Yeah,
I now doubt.
We don't even know yet.
I now doubt myself.
If you're right, I will buy you a drink, and if I'm right, you need to buy me 2 drinks.
What about how the situation with Marco?
Why do I have to buy you 2 drinks? That's
I tell you what.
Inflation. What is happening?
Here, I tell you what. Give me 2 10s, I'll give you a 5. Okay.
No.
It's the quarantine tax. You gotta.
The quarantine tax?
Muy importante.
Dude, this tax is even when I'm not making money? Jeez, dude.
Always.
Actually, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other spoilers now?
Yeah, I'm looking through my notes right here, and I don't really see a whole lot.
That was the only one I put in mine. So
that's kind of the only stuff.
We know Marco's going to get murked out. We know that Bertolt, Reiner, and
it is interesting how often they're all together. 3 of them are together.
Yeah, you don't see it coming.
Never noticed it.
Now that I know who they really are, when I see this first season, I've noticed how often they're always together.
They did it on purpose.
Yeah, they're supposed to be from the same town.
They did it on purpose like that, and they also the writer he did it to where like, oh, they're just kind of part of their like this little friends group because John
Part
and
of the same
Connie are
squad.
always hanging out together.
Correct.
Historia and Ymir are always hanging out together, but they're not, right? So it's like I feel like they did it sneakily, but on purpose, and it's done well to where you don't suspect it until later on. You're like, you sons of.
It's weird because the first time through, I don't remember connecting the three of them together as much.
I didn't, for sure. I didn't until much
like,
later.
It surprised me that they were all Titan shifters.
It's hard to keep track of everybody.
Because I didn't realize they were pals, but now going back, I realize they were always together. Like,
yeah, they were having to share intel and having to figure out plans and
and they would say stuff to each other that at the time just went over my head. But now I'm like, they're planning,
they're
things.
plotting,
Crazy.
they're the bad guys.
Yes,
they're consorting.
We know that right now they're kind of probably using this time in the midst of the chaos to like figure out what's going on with Eren. Should we go try to get Eren right now? Should we go try to like steal him out of there? Should we kind of wait and see what happens? That's kind of what they're doing right now. I feel like in the midst of this chaos, is they're using that discretion that Annie was granted.
Yeah, it's interesting because
the discretion she uses to kill Marco.
I don't know if this is a plot hole or not, but I'm just now thinking of this. Is that you know who we're not seeing right now is Bertolt, but that's because he just kicked in the wall either hours
and
before.
He's having to get around,
but no one seems to notice that he's missing.
Yeah,
and so my logic initially was, well, the reason that the Armored Titan hasn't showed up is because Reiner is kind of there with everybody, and he would have to like disappear. But the thing is well,
maybe he's waiting until Bertolt gets back, and then they're gonna just
in the
tag out.
chaos of the fight.
Yeah.
Maybe people just assume
why
he's dead.
didn't they? And my only question is why doesn't he punch a hole in the second wall? And my only thought process is that he can't, because even he, Mr. Strong Armored Titan, can't overcome that many. They have a whole stack of dumb Titans right there already.
Oh, it'd be too
whereas
dangerous for him to
previously,
get through.
exactly, too dangerous for him even, because there's
Okay.
no way he couldn't take on all.
So maybe
of
he's
them.
waiting for them to kind of thin the ranks a little bit for the.
Well, I think he's actually already missed his window. I think that for some reason or another, that's the part that I'm not 100%
Because you're right.
on.
Well, Eren
they
showed
eat
up in the
they
middle.
eat Annie too, don't they? That
Yeah,
they
they
are
really
attracted
desire
to the Titan
the shifters.
shifters just the same
you're
as
trying
people.
To get, You're trying
So
to
if
eat the
he-
Titan shifter so you can become a Titan
So if
shifter.
the Armored Titan became, went all Armored Titan and tried to pound through the wall, they'd probably eat him before he could get there.
But I think,
Right, but I'm saying like,
what happens in the middle
why
of this,
didn't he do it already?
what happens in the middle of this battle though is they figure out that Eren, and so
Yeah.
they stop their plan.
You know what? That's true.
But-
it is literally in the fight for
Bertolt
Trost.
there then?
What's that? Bertolt's not around.
No,
we haven't
he
seen
just
him
isn't there.
since episode when does Battle for Trost start? Episode 8 or something like
I
that.
don't remember
Yeah.
exactly, but yeah,
It's
I
long.
definitely.
I think this is at part 4.
I think if
Okay.
Eren, there would be a hole in the wall. That's what I suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But
That
I
makes
think
sense.
you're right. I think he has missed the window, and now he's like maybe doesn't want to be caught, so they're trying to come back and sneak back in, which is smart. Them playing quiet characters because it's way easier to notice someone who's quiet. It's hard to notice someone who's quiet who's missing
Yeah.
because they're always quiet. They just kind of sneak away. Whereas like you'd never notice, you never miss, Eren or John because they're always loud,
Very loud.
dudes.
Yeah.
Like,
Screaming
where'd
all
that
the
loudmouth
time.
guy go?
It's true.
It plays into their
It's a
character.
bigger hole. Okay. Well, getting outside the walls.
It's my birthright.
Is Eren's
Sorry.
birthright. And
Yeah.
actually, that's one of the most satisfying episodes to watch.
And
And they
that's-
actually see the ocean, and
But
you're
that
like,
is the
"Oh."
deepest spoiler of it all, right there.
Is the fact that they actually get to where they need to go?
Is the fact that his birthright,
Is
not being
literally
freedom, is literally
beyond the walls.
beyond the wall. Is the Eldians are supposed to have control of that whole area.
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to be just on a small little island of paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Going beyond those walls that are made by the founding Titan is his birthright. And
Literal
Grisha
birthright.
gave him that birthright as in his DNA
Oh.
of being from outside the walls.
Yeah.
Spoiler. This was a spoiler, kind of. Eren, in his little state, is having like a Titan memory kind of thing, I think. Don't you think? Because like
Yeah.
he's not having a Titan memory of somebody else's memory. He's having his own, but they're like, it's so vivid. Like the people are so there and like so real. Like perhaps the reason he's in that state is because he has sort of the founding Titan, like Titan memory, like power.
Yeah, it
he's able
does
to
seem
contrive
like
an
he's
entire
having a
world
memory.
that
Mhm.
seems real to him because he's actually like tapping into this crazy memory power.
Interesting.
Anyway, those
Yeah.
are my thoughts.
It really is his birthright because he's from beyond the walls.
He is.
He just doesn't know it.
Literally. Okay. Well, with that,
Dun, dun, dun.
dun dun dun. Find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube, find us on
All the
everywhere that
things.
you can find us and hit us up. We love you guys. We will see you in the next episode. and we will argue more about Marco's death. All right. Bye.
Peace.
Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.